Welcome to Masters of Side Hustles, the podcast where we explore how to use powerful tactics to build businesses of all shapes and sizes. I'm your host, Zach Richardson. In each episode, I sit down with entrepreneurs to uncover how they've used these tactics to build successful businesses. In this episode, we sit down with Brad Wiskirchen. Brad is the CEO of Count, which is a subsidiary company of the holding company Kinetics. Before joining Kinetics, Brad had a successful career as a lawyer at the national firm Holland & Hart, where he made partner. In addition to serving on the board of Kinetics and as the CEO of Count, Brad also serves on a high-level financial technology advisory board to the IMF. And he has previously served as the chair of the Federal Reserve Board for the Salt Lake City branch.
I went to undergrad at BYU and law school at Notre Dame because I wanted to be religiously ambiguous. So graduated from Notre Dame, and out of all the various places I was evaluating around the country to go to work afterwards, New York, San Francisco, Chicago. I was born in Boise, and my grandparents still lived here and had family here. And so I decided I would go to work for Holland & Hart, nice national firm, fantastic firm with a Boise office. I think my classmates at Notre Dame thought I was nuts for going to Boise, Idaho, but it was probably the best thing I ever did. Great city, fantastic firm. Thoroughly enjoyed working for Holland & Hart. You had great local clients, but the benefit of a large national firm and the resources that it brought to bear from a personnel perspective and from every other perspective. One of the companies I worked for asked me early on if I'd be interested in taking over as CEO, and I respectfully declined early on and said, no, I got to make partner and want to make partner and show that I can, and I'm the wrong guy. So they came back to me after we made partner, and I made partner, and the timing was right for both of us. So I thought, well, I'll get off the sidelines, quit giving business advice to business clients, and see if I can do it myself. So I took over as CEO of Kinetics, which was, I think, 24 employees at the time. It was early stage company having a lot of fun with each other. And the only operating subsidiary at the time was ClickBank, which was a retailer of digital goods. And we grew the heck out of ClickBank over the years, and it became one of the world's top 75 online retailers and doing transactions in over 180 countries on any given day. And we became Idaho's largest privately held tech company and just had a great time growing it. And as we grew it, we recognized that we did one thing because we had a lot of inbound from even public companies trying to, frankly, acquire the technology. And they were always seemingly blown away by the fraud control solutions that we'd built to protect our own merchant account. And we recognized we were onto something special, and we had fantastic patents in the fraud control space. So we elected to build a fraud control company. So we went out and found and created Count. Spent a year doing interviews of the top internet retail 100, asking what their points of pain were when it came to fraud control, what they wanted to see in a solution, and did that with a consultant that we hired. Then we built that solution, rolled it out. I think our first third-party client was Staples, who at the time was the number 2 online retailer in the world, second only to Amazon, which was amazing. And then in the first year, we signed with Payment Tech, which is Chase, the acquiring side of the bank, and they were 51% of the world's card-not-present transactions. And they signed with us probably in the first year. And so we knew we had done something really great. We had a small team that was scrappy and having a good time together, and we grew the heck out of it. And now we're all over the world. We're doing transactions in probably every country where it's legal to do business, and we see transactions from everywhere. In fact, last year, I think we saw 24 transactions in Antarctica. All 24 were to travel sites to get the heck off Antarctica. And we saw a few dozen transactions in Vatican City last year. They were all to a video gaming site. So one of the cardinals in Vatican City, or somebody in Vatican City, really likes to play video games. We see transactions from everywhere, and it's fantastic to see what we've been able to build from those humble beginnings of 24 people.
Getting involved with Kinetics didn't happen by accident. It was the result of an introduction made by one of Brad's closest mentors. Let's learn about how seeking out and finding the right mentors led to Brad's success both within Holland & Hart and ultimately as CEO of Kinetics.
Oh, I had mentors in the firm and outside the firm. So in the firm, I had some fantastic partners who really mentored me. A guy named Fred Mack was a business lawyer who took me under his wing very early on, and a partner named Larry Prince, just a fantastic, brilliant legal mind who taught me a lot about practicing law and being a good lawyer. But I had a mentor outside the firm as well, Bayless Manning, who was interestingly the one who introduced me to Kinetics. He was on the board. He had been the dean of Stanford Law School. He was a professor of law at Yale. He was the guy who broke the Purple Code in World War II. He was the first president on the Council on Foreign Relations. He was the undersecretary of state, I think, under Kennedy. Just one of the most remarkable people I've ever met. I think he spoke 11 languages fluently. And he also was on the Committee on Corporate Laws for the American Bar Association, and one of the greatest legal minds in American history on corporate law. And my first year out of law school, he became one of my closest friends. Where other young lawyers would be doing research on what the corporate code meant, I was able to just call him and say, when you drafted this section of the corporate code, what did you mean? Quite literally. We'd have lunch every Friday, and we'd usually have lunch in German and just speak German through lunch to keep our German fresh. And we'd do crazy things like translate Beowulf from the Urtext into English in the evenings on his front porch on Warm Springs, which when I say that out loud makes me seem like a real geek, but it was great times. So I was very fortunate that I had good mentors like Bayless outside the firm, and Fred and Larry and many, many others at Holland and Hart inside the firm.
Kinetics was founded in Southern California by a young couple named Tim and Eileen Barber, along with an angel investor, Jeffrey Hoyle, who was the company's first CEO. Brad's mentor, Bayless, convinced them to move to Boise, Idaho, and it was at a Thanksgiving dinner at Bayless's house where they first met Brad.
They came to Boise on Bayless's recommendation. The company was started in San Diego in their garage. And it became apparent that it was too expensive and just inefficient to grow the business there. So he said, you should move to Boise. I live here. And so they did, and they moved just off Warm Springs. And we all had Thanksgiving dinner, I think, at Bayless's house. It was the first time we met. And Bayless was a genius. I don't use that word lightly. And he told me, there's this young man that's moving to town with this company that I've told you about that I'm on the board of, and he's a genius, which Tim is. I think you two will hit it off, and I'd like for him to have a friend. So we had this dinner at his house, and they had two little kids. And I remember because Bayless's house was like a museum. Everything was fragile, and they had two young kids. And I remember thinking, wow, this is a suboptimal environment for a dinner with little kids. But we hit it off. Our families hit it off, and we were just friends for years. And at one point they asked me, would you be interested in becoming CEO of this company? And it was in the very early days. I said, I didn't go to B school, and I'm a good lawyer. I would be a bad CEO. So nothing happened. And Jeff kept on as CEO. And then several years later, after I made partner, we decided the time was right and stepped in and just had a great team and had a great working relationship with Tim, Eileen, and Jeff. And Bill stepped off the board and I stepped on. And that seemed appropriate that I was kind of taking over his role. And it just worked. It clicked. The team was great. I had a great working relationship with them. They were patient with me as I learned, and we grew the heck out of it.
Growing ClickBank and now Count at such a rapid rate means hiring very quickly. When it comes to finding top talent, Brad's philosophy is to create a culture that attracts the kind of people you want to hire.
With us, the strategy, it's been a conscious strategy, is to develop an enviable culture where people recognize that and you'll see it on every board, you can see it on the whiteboards, open, honest, and fearless communication, where everybody knows what the mission is, what the vision is, what the goals are, how the company's performing. We'll finish a board meeting, and then I'll share the same materials with the employees that every team member that we share with the board. I mean, everybody knows what's going on, good, bad, and ugly, which is important because we're all in this together. And if you create a culture where people feel like it's open, honest, and fearless, and they can say what needs to be said without fear of retaliation, or in fact with the thanks, because that's where you get the early warning if something's wrong or if there's a challenge, and you get them involved in the strategy. And then you build a culture where it's not just about the money and success, it's about the community. So we very early on created committees to identify opportunities for us on a very regular basis as a company to go out and serve the community, go to the food bank and serve, go clean up the green belt. We've done Habitat for Humanity homes. I mean, we regularly go out and do service. And I think that was really key to the success of creating a good culture, because in doing so, we recognize we're all paid well, and we have job security, and we work in an industry which is a growing industry, but not everybody has those opportunities. And it's humbling to go and serve other people. And you recognize how truly blessed you are and how it behooves you to serve those who aren't as fortunate. In building that culture, I think we've been able to create an environment where people want to come work. And so we've had I would say, relatively easy time recruiting to the team from people here in town and from, frankly, abroad. So we've had an easy time importing people to Boise. We've also had conscious plans. We've had partnerships with Boise State in the computer science department and helped them grow the department, aggressively helped them grow the department. We started years ago a thing called the Software Employers Alliance to help them build up the computer science department there. And that was ultimately folded into the Idaho Technology Council. And so it's been a conscious effort of serving the community that's brought attention to us and made it clear who the appropriate people are. If you don't want to serve other people, if you don't want to work as a team, then this isn't the right place for you. But we're pretty darn good about hiring and figuring out who the right people are. And that's because I have an exceptional VP of HR who's able to figure those things out long before they ever hit the manager's desks, that this is the right fit for our culture.
Just as it's critical to find the right employees and provide them with the right culture to help them thrive, it's also critical to find the right customers and provide them with the right solutions. Brad believes that it's not enough to just provide them with the right solutions they need today, but also with the right solutions they'll need tomorrow.
Sometimes they make themselves evident. For example, as brick and mortar retailers have moved into the digital space, it's provided opportunities that if you told me 3 years ago we'd have a lot of the clients that we have today, I'd have said, I don't see how that's possible. But now, we're signing some of the biggest names in the restaurant industry, Dunkin' Donuts and the Domino's pizzas and, McDonald's and people like that, because we're a card not present solution. And what's happened is in the last few years, they've all moved to curbside pickup and to using the app, et cetera. And so most of their transactions are now most of them are going through a digital or a mobile device. So that transition from brick and mortar into a digital environment has provided an opportunity for us to work with them, because that transition's also resulted in new opportunities for the fraudsters to defraud businesses. I'd like to say 3 or 4 years ago, we sat down and thought the quick service restaurant business will be a prime target for us 3 or 4 years from now. Wasn't that prescient, neither was the rest of the team. The market evolved, and we happened to have already created a solution that was ideally suited for it. We created a mobile SDK as a fraud solution years before anybody else was playing in that sandbox. I mean, we did it when our total transaction volume from mobile devices was low single digits, and thought it's all going to go in this direction. And it kind of looked crazy at the time, because you're literally building solutions that apply to maybe 3% of your current transaction volume. But now it's right around the range of 60% of our transaction volume. So now we look really smart. But at the time, it was a bit of a educated risk. We're trying not to be where the puck is. We're trying to skate to where the puck's going to be. That's why this year we've integrated enhancements like behavioral biometrics, so that we can tell in real time whether it's a bot that's engaged in the interaction with our clients, or we know exactly how the phone's being held and how it's being navigated, et cetera. And that's now can be used as part of the indications of fraud. And we've launched, next week, actually on Monday, is our client summit, and we will launch more new features at this client summit than all previous client summits of Count combined. The pace of innovation here has picked up 8-10-fold in the last 12 months. We've got the flywheel going of innovation now, and we've got a remarkable solution already that's servicing some of the biggest brands in the world, and we're just improving it. We've done exciting things in 2017. We've done even more exciting things in 2018, and 2019 is going to be a blowout year for Count. I'm excited.
In addition to partners, employees, and customers, investors are another critically important type of person to find for a business. Historically, Kinetics has always financed the growth of its subsidiaries, Count and ClickBank, through its own retained earnings. Recently, Count broke that trend, but Count's capital raise illuminates an important component of investor relationships that often goes overlooked. which is that the relationship with investors in terms of the expertise that they can bring to your board, as well as the opportunities they can facilitate for the company, are just as important as the capital they provide. Brad explains how CVC, the private equity firm they raised their Series A round from, and one of the largest private equity firms in the world, has brought a lot more to their relationship than just capital.
December of 2015, for the first time in the company's history, we raised capital and took an $80 million A round for Count from CVC. Great A round has really helped us accelerate the enhancements to the platform and the growth of the business. They've been fantastic partners and have taught the team a lot. We had never needed to raise capital, and really, I don't even know if it was the need to raise capital that was the driver. There are strategic reasons to have a private equity firm with you. When we went to market, we only looked at people who were going to add enormous value. Everybody, when you're raising venture money or private equity money, says, oh, we've got a roll at X. Well, you don't really have to prove that you have a roll at X when the same month that they invested in us, CVC purchased Petco for like $4.7 billion or something. But they've been remarkable partners. And we weren't really looking as much for money as we were for good partners who could help us improve the business while simultaneously facilitating opportunities. And I regularly, when we have huge opportunities, send out emails and say, does anybody at CVC know anybody at this company? And, they're in 24 countries. They have offices in 24 countries. I'll get an email from somebody in the London office who will say, I can facilitate an intro. I mean, it's just remarkable. And they've been great people to work with. They've been demanding in as much as they've forced me to think of the business and the team to think of the business from a perspective that we never had before. But we're a better company because of their investment and because of our regular interaction with them. And now I have this fantastic board. I have Linda Fain Levinson, who's one of the most remarkable business people I've ever met. I think she was the first woman to become a partner at McKinsey. And she was, when she started on Count's board, a little company in Boise, Idaho, she was chairman of the board of Hertz. And then I have Gordon Eubanks, who used to be the CEO of Symantec. And people like that are on my board. And I'm like, wow, that's pretty remarkable for a company of this size in Boise, Idaho, to have big hitters like that. And that's all because of CVC. We're a better company because of them. And I think I'm a better person because I've interacted with them. And that sounds sappy or something, but it's not. They've encouraged me to be Brad and to take care of Brad. And that's, I think, uncommon with a private equity partner.
In this episode, Brad Wiskirchen discussed how finding the right mentors, business partners, employees, customers, and investors has led to building two of Idaho's largest, most successful software companies, ClickBank and Count. In the next 3 episodes, we sit down with entrepreneurs who have similarly found the right people to help them build successful side hustles and small businesses.